Hello, everybody. This is Fun Police, and I am back for what is going to be the final part of the Secret and Guide series of Inscryption, the main game. Last time we tackled two bosses and pretty much half of part 3. This time we're going to head left and tackle the remainder, finding all the remaining secrets and all the hidden content, including a couple things in the finale. And then we'll be done here. But without further ado, when heading left, you're able to just simply head across the bridge, which is normally blocked off. When you first come here, this character will tell you that the bridge is blocked off, but now you're able to head here and cross it after beating one boss. After you've crossed that bridge, which contains a battle, the game will offer you the option to go south along with this recycling option, but if we aim up, we're actually able to head up, collect a small amount of money, and get an alternative path, including this data entry, which actually contains some game lore. But you also get an extra icon here to upgrade one of your cards. As you continue along, you'll eventually reach the next waypoint. But if you try to head north, this area is actually blocked off, so we'll have to head south. However, upon going south, the game actually forces you to get up and get something from the smelter room. So, if we head over here, we can head in here and actually have to solve some more puzzles. For this, all you have to do is simply read the text and put the right emotes in. This is actually extremely simple, since there's only a couple of these and you can kind of just guess your way through it if you're having trouble. But these are the correct answers. Nice and simple. Then we have to head over here. We'll actually take a look at this. The green blob appears again. A bit of foreshadowing. But now we simply have to add up the correct sums of these. They're a bit scraggy, but not too bad. However, then you get some interesting symbols such as the dual attack. So this is actually 4 plus 4 minus 4. And then a similar thing here. So 2 plus 3 is 5. And then plus 6 brings it to 11. With that, we get the next area set up to grow over to. And right here is the part that PO3 requires us to pick up. However, we can also do these different symbols. And if we take a look at these, you're supposed to rotate them to try to figure out what this image is. Right here, you can keep rotating it until it's clear enough for you, but we can pretty much tell that it's that. Do the symbol again. And there's that one. And then we can also go over here, which is waiting for network. We'll have to come back to this later. There is one last thing we can start kinda trying to figure out, and that is this weird pillar over here. There are 3 symbols on this, and we can change it. If you remember in the Act 2 episode, this is actually very similar to what we saw in Magnificus's tower, where we had to find 3 symbols from around his tower in order to enter the correct combination. And that is actually the same thing we're supposed to do here. This drone right here, from one of the boss fights, can either take pictures or be spun around. And if you spin it around correctly, as on that you see on that tombstone, there is a symbol right there. 2 lines are above it, but in the middle, there is a skull and crossbones, meaning that the middle symbol for this is actually skull and crossbones. So now we'll need to find at least one more in order to get that working. However, there is one final thing we can look at before we go back to PO3. If we head over here and then look at this wall that normally has nothing here, the clock from the cabin will glitch in. And if we set the time to 11... or 5 o'clock, my apologies, we get access to the Ouroboros, which, if you remember, is that card that permanently has its stats. So mine starts out as a 6/6, but yours can pretty much be anything. Then, if we set the time to 11 o'clock, we get another little symbol, which actually has a wing. And, well, that wing is another part of that image that is all the way over here at this pillar. Oh, it was actually on it, my bad. But if we set this up, we only have this final one. Now, you could just essentially brute force it at this point because you just have to cycle it. But we will save it until we find that third clue and do it kind of the way it was intended. But anyway, when we head back, we can give PO3 his final part where he introduces a new mechanic into the game. Start out, if we head right, you'll be able to find a variety of pickups, include and a fight. But if you reach this area with a card and a essentially a time race here, if we head right, there is another bunny, which you can collect a pelt of. And remember, we'll show off the purpose of the pelts in this video once we get them all, because there are one or two more to get. So here's one thing that is actually worthwhile or worth noting, is that once you get over to the gem area and you start picking cards, you can find stuff like Gem Detonator, which has this special symbol on it. Now, if we remember back to the last episode, there was something that had this symbol, but we didn't know what it did. Well, now we do know. So, if we stand up and head to this puzzle, we now know that this symbol shows essentially a gem exploding. What that means is that we need to blow up these gems, which are these symbols right here, and when they blow up, they hit everything adjacent to them for 10 damage. How does this solve the puzzle? Well, I'll let you pause or skip ahead a few seconds if you want to ignore it, but essentially, we just want to simply there we go. And once we do that, we get the Lonely Whizbot. Stimulation. And that solves it for those two. Now back to the board. And we'll continue, and I'll meet you at the next secret. If you continue from where we left off and keep heading down, we can meet this person to talk to. And this essentially creates a shortcut that we are able to use to reach the center. Because if you had gone down south normally, you would have run into these blades that blocked it off. Also some money to pick up. But otherwise we can continue and head down and cross this bridge. However, before we do that, if you are at the beginning and you head left, not only is there a gem pickup, but a hidden arrow allows us to walk further and collect a fund of money. Once you make it across the bridge, you can head south, and right here is the satellite dish. So if you wanted to go back up and go to the northern area on this side of the map, you can now, but we're going to stick through this gem part and reach the end of it. We can head over to this shop, and there is this special item for 25 bucks. This sort of paintbrush item. And then This would actually give you the hint to get the Ouroboros, or the Orobot, although I actually showed you that a little bit earlier. But otherwise, we can just continue down our way. After fighting your way through a few fights and reaching this waypoint at the top of the tower, you can then move on to fighting the boss. This is a very interesting one, as we get to essentially create our own boss. We can make a face, but more so, they let you create your own game rule. There's a lot of these different effects. I just scrolled through most of them. But generally, I think this is one of the easier ones. Every time a card dies, he plays a leap bot. The leap bot is a 1/2. So it is not a incredibly powerful card. And that can give you time to not get overwhelmed too much. It can help drag the fight out a little bit, but it's not going to be able to murder you as ruthlessly as some other things can. And in fact, as you see, the leap bots are even able to block off various cards, so we're actually able to even just keep building boards and just keep dealing damage. And essentially get this fight over with quite quickly. So that's phase 1. And now we get to have to create a second one.
Damn it.
Sadly, at the start of the phase, he blows up the entire board, which sadly destroyed my super-powered sniper bot. But you know, that's fine. We can work through that without a big problem. But as you see, these leap bots are actually proving to be really annoying for him in particular. They just keep clogging up the lines over and over, just making it impossible for them to do it. However, then, after a few turns, you have to make a third rule. So this is the third rule. And although it can get a bit annoying, it's still possible to eventually kind of brute force your way through this. Because he's not able to play any cards, we can kind of just keep jamming out powerful cards. And eventually we're gonna work our way through this. Seemingly the last card, the card that I've been looking for this entire time, has pretty much been on the bottom of my deck, which is a bit annoying. This has dragged on a little long. But as you see, he's pretty much out of cards at this point. I am also, but now that I've got the dual gunner, we should be able to truly get some damage in and start finishing this off. But there we go, the boss is defeated. I probably could have ended that a little bit quicker, but regardless, if you essentially the main gimmick is just to build rules that are not going to constantly destroy your cards. That's why I like the leap bots a whole lot. It's just a lot easier to do all that, and just because it fills up his board and gives you time. Although, as you saw, it can drag the fight on. But if you have your double gunners around or some really big things like the Ouroboros bot, it's also a good place to grind up the Ouroboros bot, because every turn you can essentially kill the bot, the Ouroboros, and then just kill it again, and then you can make it like a 12-12 or whatever, and just essentially steamroll everything. But otherwise, that puts us at the end of this area, and we only got one more to go. So I'll meet you back over there at the intersection, and we'll tackle that last area. This final area contains a mixture of different things, but actually does not have many secrets in this first area. This first area has essentially just a few fights and a couple events. You have to go to the four corners and activate these 4 satellites in order to get to this middle area. Up these towers, and you're able to activate one. Now do note some of these areas do have fights. I've already cleared it out simply to show it off. However, once we get down to this bottom left, there's this interesting wrench symbol. Now, you won't know what exactly this does at first, but it's going to let us build a card. And if you've been wondering what the heck this is going to be, well, here's exactly what we're supposed to build. If we build this, we're going to get something important, or semi-important. It can depend. But if we do this and then head over here, we'll go through this event. So we're going to choose one card to get rid of. So you can spend CP in order to get a variety of effects on it. But you're supposed to exactly match what the effects are. So for example, mine was a 1/1, and then it had the annoying trait. And the sniper trait. Now you may have to put in a higher value card, and if you do, you can either just keep backing out, and then you'll be able to make a higher you'll have higher SP in order to spend, but you have to make the card exactly the same as it was as an image. So somehow save that image, write it down. You also have to make it look the exactly same. Thankfully, mine came up to be exactly what it was meant to be, but yours may different. The name doesn't matter. You can do whatever. But if you make the card, it gets added to your deck. And if you've done it correctly, you'll see this is flashing. And now, it actually gives you the third and final symbol for that special part. So, if we now head all the way back to this symbol, and then we go in, we're able to set the symbols right. And if we remember, it was a skull and crossbones in the middle. We just saw it was the dual strike on the bottom. And then up top, it was the wing. And now this gem glows, and we're transported to a green gooey area, which is essentially this guy's domain. Essentially, you just have to look at the poster, a picture a couple times. And if you ever want to leave this strange area, just simply walk away. The exact purpose of that is not really anything substantial. More so just of a sort of comedic thing. It sadly doesn't unlock anything for you. So if you feel like you don't want to see that or don't need to see it for yourself, you can kind of just skip finding the symbols. Anyway, we're back and we're going to finish activating these 4 satellites in the corners. And once you've done that, you can then head into the center, and it will allow you to ascend upward. When you reach through the checkpoint, you'll reach the area that looks very similar to the actual factory of PO3. Right here is the boss, which is a version of PO3, but we have to do something to get him activated. You'll have to go through a couple fights and some different events, but eventually you'll reach over here that activates this signal right here. You also have a wrench event, but if we head back, this will activate the boss, and simply by cranking this, we'll be able to get into a fight with it. However, before we do that, we need to go over here. Right here is this lock. Now, this will be kind of weird, but when you click it, seemingly something unlocks. However, it is not in the game that unlocks. Instead, we need to stand up, and now this door is unlocked. And clicking on this to the trader, and we can collect the different pelts, and this is what they're used for. We get a variety of these tarot cards, and these are important to the lore because we can take a look at it. As you see, we actually have one last pelt to find, and we'll go find that within a moment. But this is essentially a lore dump, giving you a bunch of lore within the game and what led up to the invention and creation of Inscryption. And now we move on to the boss. By cranking that, we get into the fight. So this is a pretty fun boss. You're able to essentially... we'll see what we're doing. But as you see, you actually get... If you're on Steam, your friends actually are added into the game. It's quite a fun boss, but it's thankfully not overly difficult. Simply due to the fact you can kind of just brute force your way through it. They don't play anything super special, really. So you're able to relatively easily just kind of manhandle the boss. But it is quite a fun one, having to fight your friends in order to win. But anyway, let's move on to part 2 of this. So now you get the fun part of building your own card, which you can do in order to help someone else out, because it is actually possible to receive cards made by other people. Now, it's completely up to who you are, because you could either build a really good card or a really, really bad card. For me, I'm gonna just essentially build a modestly powerful card. One that's maybe a bit fun. We'll call that good. Change it up a little bit. And then the card gets sent off, and supposedly other people will get that card. It's quite a fun boss. Pretty interesting, pretty fun. Now, you don't actually need an internet connection to do this. I believe the boss will just let you win if a person ended up losing, but it is a fun little thing, and I do believe that other people get cards that you make, because you can actually get cards that other people have made. So it's a fun little boss fight. But there we go. It can be a bit of a waiting game, but that is the last boss. And that is all the bosses. So now we just have a few last things to pick up and finish off, such as that secret boss we showed off last time, alongside finding that last pelt, and then we can go into the finale. So I'll see you at the remaining stuff we've missed. However, before that, we also have one little story event. He tells you to go check out the dredging area, which is essentially this area over here. If we go to this terminal that was previously not working, waiting for the network, we now have it, and can now successfully head down to this area, which is actually quite interesting. And essentially, the other three scribes are telling you they're going to stop PO3 from pulling off his great transcendence. That's all you can do. You can't head back down there, so you can just continue playing. So now, let's actually go back and... but we'll continue on to... just finding those last couple secrets. The final pelt can actually be found back within the primary shop at the center area. So if we head down, for 22 Robo-Bucks, we can get access to it. And we can head over to the trader, and we'll look at that last final card. And that is going to be it for the trader. So, Rabbit, you have found all the rabbit pelts now. And pretty much all we have left to do is go fight that special boss. Because this is going to be, I would say, the hardest fight, and it's the final fight and the final thing you can really do, don't hold back. Spend all of your money on upgrades and changes, and just get everything you can, recycle cards, upgrade them. If you haven't used any upgrade stations, go and do that now. Try to build the best deck possible, because this boss is definitely the hardest thing, just kind of within the, I would say, in Act 3, and maybe possibly one of the hardest things in the entire game. Whenever you are ready, head down to the secret boss area, and we'll get into this fight. This fight is not nice, let me just say that. This is a tough fight. Whenever you are ready, head down into the purple area and you can get into a fight with him. The big gimmick of this boss fight is that the cards on his side constantly move together and turn into essentially an amalgamation. This makes it actually very tough to deal with. because not only you have to deal with the constant onslaught of cards, but he essentially gets this big attack right off the bat. It is surprisingly difficult to deal with this. However, if you can set up if you have your vessels with sentries, I find this gets a lot easier, which is very nice. But as you see, we might be able to deal with this a bit better now. We are, however, right on death's door, and as you see, the cards keep merging into each other, which makes this fight harder and harder, but if you can, sentries are very powerful here, and you can slowly wear down and fight back against him. It's namely just getting through this first phase of the fight that is particularly difficult, because he starts off with so much power on the board immediately. It is not the easiest fight, but once you get through this initial part, you should be able to really start locking down the board now that you've had more credits set up, or you have more power set up. So let's get this done. And then we go to phase 2. Now, this is actually just going to be an insta-win, but essentially he merges all of your cards into one and then plays essentially an exploding bot. But because, as you saw, the way I had it set up, namely a sentry on the far left, the Explodobot actually got killed immediately when it came in, which meant that it died and he couldn't build his own bot anymore. So that is one of my tips, is that after you get through that initial onslaught, if you have any card with sentry within it, get it on the far left side, kill him, and you'll be able to essentially skip this second phase. Which is good, because this phase can be also quite scary. So now that part of the... Now you don't get any reward directly for this, and you're unable to really refight him or do anything there. However, that last card, that gigantic 1211 with a jumbled number name, was actually part of the ARG, helping to solve codes and advance the ARG. But otherwise... that is it for the main game of Act 3. There is literally nothing left to do. There are no fights, there are no anything to find. We have done everything possible. The only thing left is to go to the Great Transcendence. And I'll leave it here and let you experience the finale for yourself. But that is actually going to be it. The finale itself does indeed have one very, very small secret, but it is so inconsequential due to how the finale ends up working that is not very important. But I want to thank you all so much for watching. I definitely appreciate all the support you guys give me, and I'm glad people enjoyed and were even asking for this to be finished. So I'm glad that even though it got delayed a little bit, it ended up, now it should be coming out, and I hope everybody has enjoyed. Thank you all so much for watching, but I want to wish you all, again, a good new year, as we're recording right around that time, and I want you to have a good day.